and actually Mike was speechless for a few moments when it started. So that was kind of nice. And we did get him to cry, which is not.
Yeah, that's a good one. So, because I met Mike in 2002 when I first met Mike. Yeah.
So, but he was a long time, and then also Tammy Bettinger, who was the administrative assistant to the director of facilities and grounds. She was with us since 2017. She resigned, and her last day was last Thursday. And because she's a support staff person, you don't get her name as part of the list of things that you approve. But we wanted to at least mention her because she was a huge asset to the district. Did a number of different things, working with contractors. She was cleaning classrooms, ordering supplies. She was one of our folks that was able to handle the chemical balance of the pool. Even delivered the mail, and as I mentioned in the memo, she is the embodiment of the phrase "other duties as assigned." And so over the years, she was a great thing. So and she is also helping us out on a temporary basis, after hours, remotely, helping us through some of the transition as we just making sure we don't miss anything in this short period of time. But we are looking to we are hiring or interviewing for that position and looking to hire hopefully soon. But she would assist then remotely to help us make sure we don't miss a beat. So obviously with both Mike and Tammy leaving, those are two big hits, and we wish them both well in their new opportunity. Then if you want to scroll back up to the top of the second page, we did not escape winter break completely unscathed from a building standpoint. As you know, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day had some of the coldest temperatures in a while, and there were stories you hear from contractors that there were issues all across the area in all sorts of different hospitals, colleges, buildings were put to the limit. And so we did end up having a number of issues, and I want to compliment Matt, who, even in the interim role was here quite a bit over Christmas, probably almost every day, either working on things himself or trying to deal with those problems. So we had boilers going down, and then motor pumps going down. You take one down and one would overwork, and then the other one would have to come down. And then control systems were also malfunctioning as well, which caused some issues. So there was a lot of things that were going back and forth. And so we are sadly waiting now for the invoices that'll involve some holiday and overtime pay to deal for that emergency work. And then the one piece that we did that had more of a major impact on us is our reheating coil for the field house. So I'll let Matt kind of tell the story on that one, but that's something that we installed a few years ago to help manage the humidity in the field house due to how it was engineered. And so that's something that's currently down, and we're working through that. So I'll let Matt tell his story on that one.
So basically what happened was that we have a rooftop unit that does reheating, which takes the humidity out of the room. And what happened was during one of the coldest stretches that we had, the unit decided to malfunction and open up its dampers to the outside air, which created a very, very cold air to our reheat coil that is just on the other side of those vents, which basically froze and broke every possible joint that we could in the coil, the reheat coil itself. As soon as it started warming up just a touch, because it was in the location that it was in, it had the warm air from inside the building to unthaw itself a little quicker than it should have. And it began to rain inside of our training, so to speak. We were very fortunate in the fact that it was right in the middle of the room. And being in the training vicinity area, it is brick and concrete floor. So there was minimal damage, so to speak, in an instance that could have been very damaging if it would have been elsewhere in the building. We had Jan Brennan here to help us. They're going to be here again. Tomorrow's Wednesday, so Thursday, Friday, taking the coil down and inspecting it, seeing if we can actually repair here on premise the parts that are broken. If he can repair it, he said he will repair it. It is a time and material kind of instance where it's just a tedious process, which will probably take him a couple days of raising copper tubing for days on end, probably be about 2 days worth of work. If he cannot repair it, then we will be looking into ordering a new reheat coil from JCI. Which right now I can probably only estimate that we would be looking at a 4 to 6 month wait period.
Question for you, Matt. With the one going out, what's the probability of, now, do we only just have that one? Or how many of those units do we actually have?
We have 2 units that run the field house, one that actually heats it and one that helps control the humidity. Now, the one that helps control the humidity is the one that is actually down right now.
Right.
And with that one being down and I don't even know how expensive of a wood floor that we have down in the middle of the field house, that causes an issue. Because every little bit of humidity potentially could be to the point where that floor gets distorted and gets damaged, and we couldn't have what we need to in that field house, and we'd have a useless floor, so to speak, at that point. I do have a emergency situation plan in my head if we were to have to sit for a while with no reheat coil. We would have to get some airflow going into there even more than what we have at this current time. And then we'd probably have to rent or buy some dehumidifiers to keep the air out of the air as much as possible. Now that we're going into winter, that's going to be a little easier because with winter coming around, anything under 32 degrees, the humidity is basically out of the air. But we're staying right around that 32 to 35 marker right now, which is not helping us out right now. So the time that I wish we were in the 20s or in the 30s, I'm gonna say that I'm gonna complain because I'm polar bear and it's too warm.
Well, how does that work though, Matt, then when because we've got the basketball games and everything else that are going on in the building, so automatically
there's heat.
the heat is going,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a little whole different type of a
Right now,
ball
we
game.
have ceiling fans that are moving at a very high rate, and
The ones that are up on top, the ones that are up.
ones that are up on top. That seems to be keeping the humidity down just enough right now. Because we are in that little bit of in between, the humidity is not extremely high. So the air movement is going around very well. If this weather keeps up for.
We need some fans in here too?
You know, what I'm gonna tell you, ask this Amanda that sits at that desk every day, she said it's cold as could be in this place.
And I'm a cold person.
So,
And she sits in front of the door.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
well, she said she walks into this place, she'll sit behind Donna and say it's too cold back there, dude. So. Okay. So basically. This Thursday and the Friday with the reheat coil depends on what. If we're only looking at a couple more days without the coil. No harm, no foul, we'll just keep things moving as is. If we have issues where we're gonna have to purchase a reheat coil. Or send one out for repairs if that's even possible. Then we're gonna have to talk about alternative.
But then you say 4 to 6 months?
4 to 6 months is probably pretty accurate.
So, ooh, crap. So Kev, do we got contingency dollars in our facilities budget for something like this?
Well, we have equipment breakdown, and so we're working with an insurance company just to see like what they will cover in this case, because this is something that this is not wear and tear, this is a breakdown and whether we'll have to see whether they argue that it was a systems control failure that was the problem and because the damper being open or as they investigate. So do we have contingency dollars set aside? No, I mean, we have our general, facilities and grounds budget. We'll just have to, use some things and maybe delay some of the other things we were thinking about doing yet this year until we kind of see where we're at. But But we'll absorb it, you know, one way or another, because it's something we obviously.
We gotta have. So then would it be advantageous? Because whatever that dollar amount would be, the board, anything over, was it 25,000, the board has to approve? I mean, do we need to, should we just do that now because we already know that it's gonna run us something, just so that we make sure that this is getting done prior to the board voting? Because if we gotta order it, we need to get it done.
Sure, well, I mean, I think the board, the amount I was quoted, and obviously we don't know for sure, was $20,000. So that was the cost of that unit itself.
That's just the unit, but that doesn't have anything to do
No,
with
but that's usually though, I mean, we can certainly do that. That cost is not gonna happen immediately, so we can certainly order it if it's a $20,000 unit, and then if there's a larger thing and the board wants to approve, I mean, we wouldn't be trying to. Just, you know, we're not purposely disaggregating it to make it so that it's something that we're trying to avoid from the board. If the board wants to approve the total package.
I mean, we ain't got no choice. It's either spend the money right now or buy a brand new floor.
Right, well, I would say this, though, I mean, the danger to the floor from a damage standpoint is probably not, I mean, we went several years without having this. This was installed because we continuously had the humidity problem. I think the greater danger is condensation on the floor, which would make it as a safety issue. So I mean.
Issue now, we're talking about kids falling and everything else.
It just means we have to be more aware of it. We have to be going across it with the broom more often, mops, and doing that more frequently during games and keeping an eye on it. So I think that's a question. And we'll know more by the end of the week. And certainly if it turns out that it is on, and well, in fact, and once they pull it down, they may try to fix it and it may not work. So if that's the case, at the next board meeting, we would bring it to you that we'll be looking to purchase
What is
it.
our insurance deductible?
It's $1,000 for equipment breakdown, so it's relatively minor. It just,
That is really a good.
but I think the question will be, what's
If they make,
the event and what's the cause, and so.
oh, yes, absolutely.
We are gonna try to fix it though, right?
Yeah, we are gonna try to repair it. We have, the problem is it's a 6 foot long by 3 foot tall piece of metal that is roughly about 6 to 7 inches thick. So it's gonna take.
It weighs what, 500 pounds?
Yeah, it's gonna take 2 to 3 people to get it down, pieces of equipment and et cetera. So it'll be a full day of just before we can even examine it. So the real question is gonna be is, once we get it down, we take a look at it, we open it up and we see how bad the damage is. Once we have the damage report, can we fix it? It's the next step.
Okay.
If we can fix it, what's the, it's not even a matter of how long it's gonna take, is how fast we can get it done.
Okay.
Because of what we are doing, we're gonna put, because in this ductwork, we're gonna have a big hole. So right away, we're going to cover that hole with a temporary basis, so that we can keep the airflow going into the building. And keep air moving throughout the building, even though that we're bringing in some of the cold air from outside, that's actually working in our favor just a little bit. Now, if we get down to the, single digits, that might become more of an issue where the other unit won't be able to keep up with the fresh air coming in, but we can figure that out once that time comes. If we're still looking at, we haven't repaired it by then. There are, like I said, there are emergency contingencies in my head of what we need to do and how fast we can get it done. Because you always gotta have that in your back pocket, just because. With this going on, I'm on standby right now until we figure out what Friday brings us.
Cool. Speaks, you got a question?
Are we having the adjuster, the claims adjuster come in around the same time so that they can view it and determine whether or not?
I'm working on initiating the claim. We know when we pull it out, it will be down for a while. So whether, to see what the issue is and determine. I'm sure I think for them, it's going to be the bigger issue will be what was the cause of it.
Exactly, that is going to be it, but
We
if it's
will
down
be
and
documenting
gone, are they going to?
It'll be here. It will still, the unit itself will still be here. Well, and the fact is, it's not the unit that caused the problem. That was the end result. It was that damper situation, which allowed the cold air in. So the unit itself doesn't tell you why it happened, just it was freezing in that vent or in the ductwork
Okay,
at that moment, and that's what caused the burst.
got it. Okay.
So we will be documenting everything, so you know, at the next board meeting, I'll be able to show you some pictures or have something available for you guys to see what the actual damage coil looked like. So.
Appreciate that, man.
That's right.
And I know other districts in the area had other, I mean, there are other things that happened,
Oh,
any, you know,
excellent.
external wall with pipes in them, things broke,
I know Marquette University took a huge hit.
Yeah.
Huge hit.
so we, I mean, in that sense, while it's not pleasant, as things have gone in other places that we got off.
Yeah, this is not bad.
Yeah.
Considering. I just have one other question regarding that, but regarding the facility and ground staff departures.
Mhm.
Miss Tammy Bettinger is not on our list.
She supports that. Support that, right.
Okay, that's what I was-
The reason, I mean, Mike, and then there's another support staff person on the
Yes.
retirement list because there are retirement costs for those, but as a resignation. We don't bring those. to the board.
Okay.
But it was worth mentioning. I wanted to make sure I mentioned her.
Absolutely. All right, thank you.
All right, anything else, Mr. Clement?
That is it for the business office and facilities and ground updates, unless anyone.
All right, board members, any other questions for Mr. Clement in relationship to his update or report? Let's move forward to approval of new hires.
This evening, we have one new hire, Austin Zane. We are like to bring on as a bio teacher at the middle school.
All right, someone like to make a motion?
Dr. Beazle, I'd like to make a motion to approve the hiring of Austin as a middle school physical education teacher for the 2022-2023 school year.
Sounds good. All right, we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. All right, thank you, Ms. Bacon. Motion made second. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor will raise hand and or aye. Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, motion carries unanimously, 7-0. All right, let's go. We have our next item is 2D.
Yep. We have one resignation, but I understand the board would like to have a conversation in closed session, so we can discuss, we can do that and then approve it at the end of the meeting.
Right, that's the one that we're doing that. So what, yeah, so.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to move the resignation of Garland Williams.
Oh,
I don't think we have to, I don't think we have to do that. Go on here, come back in,
That's okay.
then we'll do it.
yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right, let's go on to our next item is our approval of retirements.
Yes, and now this is the time of year that we do start to get the retirement piece. We do ask teachers to put in their notice by the end of January so that we can plan for next year. So we have, and then any support staff members who have been here long enough. We do have a financial benefit upon retirement. So all of those I bring to the board as well, so that you're aware of them. So we have 4 so far this evening. Felicia Mayfield, who has been a 5th grade teacher in the district for many years, will be leaving us at the end of the year. Mike Hanna is custodian, mentioned that one already. Cindy Bernard, who is the high school administrative assistant, intends to retire at the end of June. And then Sandy Schmidt, the high school math teacher, is also going to be retiring at the end of the school.
All right. Someone like to make a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the retirement of Michael Hanna as a second shift lead custodian effective January 6, 2023.
All right, we have a motion. Thank you, Ms. Walker. Motion has been made. We have a second.
Second.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Bacon. Any discussion? Well, the only thing I'd like to say is, like I said before, I met Mike in 2002 when I first met Mike, and he's been a mainstay for the District of Brown Deer in that maintenance department, and not only doing maintenance, but you know what? He had more relationships with students in relationship to being kind of that mentor and having different conversations and those relationship building things that, you know what, that is invaluable to a district the size of ours. I just like to say that, you know what, I'm gonna miss him, that sense of humor. And every time you seen him, he had a good smile for you and a nice handshake for you every time that he saw you. So Mr. Hannah will be missed. I hated when I had the conversation with him right before the break and everything that he was getting ready to do it and stuff. So I'd like to thank him for those, 26 years? 26 years of being here and servicing the District of Brown Deer and stuff. So I'd just like to thank him in relationship to that. So that was part of my conversation piece. Anybody else have anything else before we go to vote to approve? All right, hearing and seeing none, all in favor will raise hand and or aye. Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, we approve the retirement of Mr. Hannah. All right, next.
I'll make a motion to approve the retirement of Sandy Schmidt as a high school math teacher effective June 6, 2023.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bacon. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion?
I'm sorry, it is actually June 8th is the last teaching day.
So it's gonna be June 8th.
8th should be the last day. June 6th is the last student day, but there are 2 days after that, so.
So we need to make the same thing for Miss Mayfield.
Will be June 8th, yes.
However, Mr. Hannah can leave.
Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Hannah's already done.
Yeah, he's already done, yeah. So if you can do a friendly amendment.
So Lisa, could you reread it?
Of course.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the retirement of Sandy Schmidt as a high school math teacher effective June 8, 2023.
All right, motion has been made. That second was Ms. Bacon. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor will raise hand and or aye. All right, motion carries unanimously 7-0. We wish Ms. Schmidt, hey, happiness in her retirement.
I would just say to make sure that she knows that date, because that was the date she had on her right.
I will remind her, yeah. And she's also one that will be coming back. She does a number of I think she does costumes and that for the plays. She'll be back next year. So she'll still be around the district during certain time.
How long was Ms. Schmidt here too? 30%. Man, wow. Okay, well, we wish her well as too, so we,
Her and Hannah, they,
man,
all them years.
oh, well, it's the same thing with Felicia.
Same thing with Mayfield.
All right, thank you very much. All right, let's go on to our next one.
I would like to make a motion to approve the retirement of Felicia Holland Mayfield as an elementary school teacher effective June 8, 2023.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Robinson. The motion has been made. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Walker. Any discussion? I told Ms. Mayfield back in November, I said, nope. But I guess she's like, hey, I'm doing it anyway. So yeah, that's good. Ms. Mayfield actually had been here 20. Let's see, how old is AJ? AJ is 24.
He's 24.
But AJ's 24.
Her son and my daughter.
Well, all of them, so they all graduated together.
2016, they're 24, right?
Yeah. Wow. Oh, yeah, so she's actually been here, what, 27 years?
Miss Mayfield
Mm-hmm.
said 32.
Oh, so- yeah, she's the only, when she graduated from high school, graduated from college, she came straight here. This is her first job. So, wow, okay. All right, well, with that being said, we had a motion and a second. Any discussion? Outside of man, wonderful longevity, great teacher. There's so many kids that came through here that went through Miss Mayfield, especially at elementary school. Like, yeah, so.
We don't need them to space these out.
Yeah, a little bit of something.
Let them talk.
Yeah,
You know, let 'em
right.
talk.
All right, so with that being said, all in favor, raise hand and or aye. Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, motion carries unanimously 7-0 for Felicia Mayfield. All right, and our last retirement.
I would like to make a motion to approve the retirement of Cynthia Bernard as middle school administrative assistant effective June 30th, 2023.
Thank you very much, Ms. Robinson. Motion has been made. We have a second.
I'll second Dr. Peter.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Peterson. Motion has been made. Second, any discussion? That's another long time. Wow. So how many years did she have? Did she have everybody beat?
She's been here a long time.
Did she have everybody else beat?
I'm sure she does.
Yeah, I know she's got at least 30. Definitely 30. Wow. Oh, with that being said, best wishes to Miss Bernard and her next move in her life and everything and stuff. And man, we just can't thank her enough.
1999, August of 99.
Wow.
So nice chunk of time.
99.
99.
24.
24.
Long time. All right, so all in favor, raise hand and or aye. Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none. Motion carries unanimously 7-0 for unanimously for Ms. Bernard. So now you think about our retirement. Man, man, please, what we got 30, what's 32, 34, 20, 26 and 24. That's 50, that's 100 and man, we over 110, 115 years.
Bayfield was 1991. When she was hired, so.
91.
That's how about where she probably come out from.
Well, and you're gonna get a lot of longevity when you.
Yeah.
Retire.
Right. So, when you look at that, we've got over 110 years of experience getting ready to leave the district at the end of the year. But I think that's also one of the things that we say that, these individuals love being here at the district and love the kids and love the community and being able to serve in any capacity over 20+ years and being able to do anything, especially in education. So, yeah, we thank them for their service. Once a Falcon, always a Falcon. I know they all gonna come back and do some part-time, do something, because they're gonna get bored. They ain't gonna be able to take it. All right.
Dr. Beto. I just want to say a heartfelt and personal and professional thank you to all four of them. They were obviously here when I got here, when I arrived. So Mr. Hannah, Ms. Schmidt, Ms. Mayfield, and Ms. Bernard, thank you for your years of service to the school district around here. We appreciate you, and we'll be tapping you on your shoulder to come back and do some work for us. And some of you have already asked, so I think that's a great thing to think about as well. So thank you to all of you. We appreciate you.
All right. Let's move on now to our engaged learners discussion. Dr. Glass?
Dr. Brown.
Oh, Dr. Brown.
Yes, sir. So before you, board members, you have so I want to share with you, this is one of the most piece.
And colorful.
And colorful tabs, but we we do go through this with a fine tooth comb. We put it down, we pick it up. And we can find some pieces that we need to revise. So board members, at your tables in front of you, you did receive an email with the board calendar. But after yesterday, Kevin, Donna, and I working on it again, in front of you, you have a hard copy, which is the most recent version. And you will know it's the most recent version. At the top, it says revised draft. And then the date is 1/10/2023. So we had to go back and add the teacher and student count is what we did to make sure that those added up appropriately for our instructional calendar. So what you will see is we have 188 teacher days and 173 student days, which is up from 167 this year. And as we have engaged in discussions about impacting student achievement and looking at our instructional minutes, this was one additional way for us to have a little, and actually come in alignment with some of the surrounding districts around us in terms of the number of instructional days that our students have access to instruction.
Are we doing the same thing for the number of hours for our K-4, even because theirs is actually hours? So what
No,
do we?
K4 is different because.
I know that's what I'm saying, but we didn't have a total.
No, we did not do it for K4. I mean, we can. The teacher day is the same. They gotta be.
So teacher days are 188 and stuff, because again, for K4, theirs is by hours, not by days, so theirs is a little bit different, so I didn't know.
believe the student day is 170 because they have a couple extra days off, but.
Right, so that's the one thing I wanted to know, were we trying to do anything a little bit differently for K4, especially since we know it's a half-day program?
No,
So-
K4 is essentially the same as it was last year. What I would ask that you please pay attention to is for what's different on the K through 12th grade calendar is to pay attention to noticing that we have a September first start date, which is on a Friday.
Oh,
Yeah, I know
that's
that's way
teachers,
out.
though, right?
No, that's for
Oh, that's
students.
that's the first day.
First day, yeah, that's for students.
It says.
Yeah, no, it's right there.
Yeah, it says teacher.
Says it's the first
teacher day, and then.
First full day, all students.
No, not all students. So what I want to call your attention to is, we'd like to bring in, because it's a Friday. And we believe our families are gonna go on
5, 6,
vacation,
and 9.
they're gonna do all of that, right? Going on vacation. What we'd like to do is, have Friday as an opportunity for orientation for our transition,
Transition
Groups.
grades.
meaning transition grades, yes, meaning K-5, 6th
Sixth
and
grade.
9th grade on that Friday. We'll transition into Labor Day weekend, and then all of our students will start on the 5th.
Okay.
So that's what I wanted to bring to your attention, to pay attention to, which would be very different from our 22-23 calendar.
Got a question for you, Dr. Kelsey Brown. Did the state make any changes to the first day of school, before it was always after the tourist day, after Labor Day, or
No, it's September first.
so,
They haven't made any changes.
okay, because I know there was discussion about that, but the reason why they were doing it was because, the tourist industry were like, oh, no, we can't miss that money.
They need kids.
They need money. Yeah.
Okay. So,
I didn't know if they had made I didn't know if they made a change.
yes.
I'm trying to find it on here, but I'll just ask the question. Are we still having those virtual days?
No, ma'am.
Oh, good.
No. That's what virtual. I'm over it. That's why it's bad. It's just hard to juggle. We're still trying to navigate those two platforms while we're here and our students are home, and some students do have parents at home who can support and help them. Some still do not. So we made a good faith effort to see what that could have looked like for this school year that we're currently operating in. And there will be no asynchronous virtual days on PL days next year.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
So Dr. Glass, do you like the schedule?
Vacation day.
I like the staggered starts for transition grades, and then some other things that I'm focusing on right now. I've been talking to Dr. Brown and some of the coaches about what we're going to do with new teacher days. Those are the things that I'm looking at, how to transition them in, looking at the strategic plan, looking at what would be the best benefit for strategies for literacy and math. So figuring out where to embed that in this calendar, particularly for our new staff.
All right.
And that will be August. The other piece I would draw your attention to is just how early homecoming weekend is for us. So the homecoming weekend is the first weekend in October. October 6th.
That's crazy.
So it'll be.
Wait, why is it so early?
It had something to do with the how Harvard Gerald works with the Woodland Conference athletic directors to determine who we play on, that kind of thing. So so we will be planning early. Miss Olazewski, our student council supervisor for the students, she's very well aware. So we just backmap and plan earlier. But the game is set, so.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, that's early. I mean, that's like what the
Normally.
fifth, was it like the fifth football game? Yeah. Was that like the fifth football game?
You go every Friday. If you go every Friday, that's one.
Yeah, it was like the fifth football game. Okay.
Calendars that families would get. These calendars. do they get-
Our families, they receive these calendars, and then Courtney also has a calendar that I can show you real quick if I have it, that she puts out on the website that further delineates what we're doing by the month.
I just wanted to point out, I don't know where this goes, but first column. the
Which
second to the
one,
last,
K-5 through 12?
Calendar,
K-5 through 12.
okay. I got again, first column,
First column, the second to last blue. That's dates.
Finals?
finals week,
Finals?
Finals, 1, /16 through 1/118. Just need to correct that.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, yeah, there was extra one in there. Yes, okay. All right, but we're not approving this calendar tonight. We're gonna bring this back to us again, and then we'll go back through. You guys will dot the i's, cross the t's, come back, and then we'll approve the calendar, the following meeting, our next meeting, right?
Yes, let me draw your attention to. One thing. In March. The ACT testing day for juniors, for the last 3 years, we've had, the high school, only the juniors have been, in our buildings on that day for ACT testing. And so we garner the support of all our other teachers in the buildings to support our juniors on that. So only juniors will be here on that March 6th day. This year is March 8th, where we only have juniors. Next year will be March 6th. So, our teachers and our students, that is a great strategy to employ, to make sure they can focus on the ACT test. We have all of our teachers supporting our students. We set up in the field house and in the North Commons, spread them out. So that's one other piece to pay attention to. That's, we learned that from COVID, actually. We started doing it in the COVID year.
So state testing is to be determined, but we're looking at it happening in May? Or is it gonna happen in April? Well,
It typically starts, we start in April, but it starts in March. The testing window, we don't have that information yet.
okay, no, because I just saw it was in both April and in May.
Mhm.
And then, you know, we got finals in May, so I'm like, okay, wait a minute, it probably have to be more in April than anything else.
We set our own internal district assessment
Right.
calendars around that as well, so. When we get those dates, we'll plan around it.
Okay.
So that's really the major changes in our instructional calendar for 23-24. The upcoming school year. And if there are any questions I can answer, or any additional questions?
Board members, questions? All right, thank you. All right, let's go on to our engaged and innovative staff discussion of the budget calendar.
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes, just wanted to share with you, just so you know, I shared this with you last year. As you remember, basically, at almost every moment, I'm thinking about 3 years. We're always finishing up 1 year, we're in the middle of the second year, and then we're starting to plan for the third year. This just highlights the steps we're gonna go through the development of the 23-24 calendar. This is a little different year than last year because again, we're in a new state biennium. So there's a lot of questions as to what will happen from a financial standpoint. We're gonna talk a little about advocacy later in the agenda, but so we'll have some assumptions we'll make and we'll have to plan with whatever we believe we're comfortable with that the state will provide us as some guidelines for revenue, and that's what we'll start with. We'll continue to develop kind of our wish lists and other priorities that we want to do, and then we'll see what actually comes out of the budget process. So we're right now in the process where we're starting to go through some of the early calculations. I'm a little bit behind for some of the pieces, so I'm getting the revenue and expenditure assumptions developed now, and I'll share it with the board as soon as I can. But we're also in the process of looking at staffing. We're doing that internally. We're going to talk about open enrollment as a piece. And then as we continue to go through the rest of the spring, various need assessments are completed. We have conversations about different department budgets, building budgets, things like that. All to the point where I present to you a budget in June that you'll approve from a preliminary standpoint. And we do the final approval again in October, like we did several months ago. This is just the timeline to show you when the board will be involved in those conversations as well.
Board members, questions for Mr. Clemick in relationship to the budget planning calendar and any dates or anything that you're looking at from a financial standpoint that you'd like clarification for or?
I have one question about, so we do an approval, so we revise our previous year's budget.
We can if we want to, if we've made significant changes to it. And I was going to do that last year, and then I talked to some of my colleagues and they I mean, there are questions whether you have to actually do it or whether you just talk about what you've done or you approve it, right?
So
Right.
the young.
It's in an era of transparency, you know, so if we do make some, I have a feeling this year we're gonna have some shifts, so maybe we will want to do a budget amendment basically and do a revision. Some districts do that every month, like as things change. But most do it at the end of the year to just kind of finalize anything if if it's something significant has happened. In our case, last year, we underspent in so many areas, so it's really, I think the bigger issue is when you overspend in a specific area, and if it does cause something that, is unexpected. In our case, we had a lot of savings, and then certain things were over, but they were all absorbed by savings elsewhere, so it wasn't, we had a very positive financial year last year, so it's not as, as big of an issue.
And just hope our enrollment stays consistent.
Will be helpful.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Just an FYI, I think the budget, governor's budget, it's presented February week 15th, so that's gonna probably factor into some of this stuff too.
That's usually the kickoff of the conversation, and then the Republicans come up with their idea and then their discussion for several months. So we'll see. I mean, some years we've had budgets and, when they finalize it, they're supposed to finalize it by the end of June, which of course is before I can do the preliminary. Or after I do the preliminary, I'll have to have that ready in advance that. But hopefully we'll hear conversations over the next several months, and we'll start to hear, maybe they'll crystallize on a number and they'll be saying, oh, it's gonna be a $400 increase or whatever. And then we can start using that reliably. So when we talk about this in February and I start talking about assumptions, I want the board to feel comfortable with the number based on what I'm hearing at that point, what we think may happen, and be cautious and conservative about it until we know for sure. We will have, as I've shared before, because of that 3-year rolling average that we have with attendance or with enrollment, our bad year, the pandemic year, is going to fall off. So even if the state did nothing, and they're going to do, I have to hope they're going to do something. Even without that, we would see an increase in limits, so we would have some additional money. And again, how much we spend in ESSER money this year, how much we'll have left for next year, that's all will be determined. But hopefully that, and then some additional per pupil increase, whether it's in special education aid that helps us, or categorical aid, or on the revenue limit, whatever the case may be, we'll have a better sense, hopefully, as the months go on, that we can start actually planning on utilizing those dollars.
Any other questions?
And the governor's, I think his state of his budget address is on the January 25th, so it'll be interesting to hear what he says regarding education coming out of that.
I know one big thing I'd love to be able to do is they need to change the where they turn around and make K4 a full day instead of half day or whatever stuff, but that's the legislative thing and stuff. It's written in state statutes for Wisconsin in relationship to 4K not being identified as a full grade level or whatever, but I think that's something that needs to change especially when we start talking about changing the achievement gap and all the rest of those different things. K4 actually needs to be a full day program rather than a half day program, and school districts only being paid half or 50%, or that extra 10% if they're doing the family outreach part or whatever have you, but that needs to be a full day program, and hopefully if that does happen or whatever, we just have to be prepared for it or whatever. And I'm quite sure that there's been some discussion. I don't know how much it would take for them to be able to change the state statutes in order to be able to do it and what the vote would look like, but I know definitely that's one thing that every school district, public and private, is definitely wanting for that to happen. So.
You can be full day, you want to get paid.
But you only get paid, I'm saying, I want to get paid for the full day, not 50% or 60%, but get paid for the full day, because we're paying our teachers full day.
Right.
We're paying up, and on top of, you have to have 2 teachers in there with the K4s. So, it's a little bit, you have to have a teacher and an assistant in there with K4s. So, that's just one of those things. That's one of those things that we definitely would want to be able to write about this new budget coming out or whatever. Could that be something that could change that state statute for that?
In addition to early childhood, I would also add.
Yeah, all of it runs hand in hand. All right. Let's go on to our next item. Let's go on to our discussion of the December 19th strategic planning session. And that would be board members. Ms. Smith and Ms. Walker, right?
No.
No, Ms. Smith and Ms. Macon. Okay.
On December 19th, we had our first full day of the strategic planning session. Prior to that, we had about a half hour Zoom meeting. Dr. Brown coordinated so that the members that were going into it would be able to just get a sense for where we would be going and how it would proceed. During the day, I was thinking, when we selected the person that Mr. Knightsky to conduct this, I just kept thinking and I remember we took 2 meetings to determine that he was the person we wanted. And I just kept thinking that, don't pat yourself on the back, but we did a very good job of selecting. I was just really glad that he was the consultant that we selected, because I really felt that he really had an understanding of where we were within the the educational landscape and where we are hoping to go. So I'm sure there were a lot of discussions with Dr. Brown, but he did his homework and he really did a good job of I guess customizing it to the needs of our district and for that day and as we go forward. The first day was language of leadership. So we spent a good portion of the time when we did the greetings and everything and really understanding him and how his background in doing this poured into what our needs were. So, and one of the concepts that he talked about was collegial courage, which, sitting in there with all of these educators that were at different places in that spectrum as far as their career, trying to dig deep and find that courage to change, to be the architects of a living document that we would find and hold ourselves accountable for. And I was really excited about the fact that as we move, it moves. As we fail, as we find successes, our document adapts to it. It's not just, okay, here's our strategic plan. So being a part of that was something that and having everyone understand that we're not just gonna get up and go, it was something that I liked. So this was kind of to say where we're gonna go. We talked a lot about the types of change. We spent a good portion of the time on getting to know our task, being very clear on what our task would be, which was welcome, because a lot of times you'll come into situations as such where it's assumed that everyone knows the task. So the fact that we spent a good bit of time with that, the structure we'd follow, and how we would be integral in the process and what the process would be, and that the process never ends. I thought that was good for that, the first. So I feel good about what we accomplished on that day. He did give us a workbook that we will be going through, and I got a chance to go through some of the things that we would get to. Well thought out, well done. I'm excited about it. If our task, our task is, and what I'm excited about is that accountability piece. Will it be transparent and will we do it? And that got that sense that that's what we would do. We're laying all our stuff out and we just move forward, everyone in the same goal, same mindset. I don't know, anyone just want to weigh in.
Yeah, you did an excellent job. Thank you. The only thing that I would probably add is that I thought it was really great that it gave an opportunity for everybody to feel like they were participating and going to provide some voice in the whole process. A lot of times you have meetings and it seems like there are some people who are carrying all of the weight, whereas in this particular forum, there were students there. So that was really, really awesome. We were like 4 or 5 students that were there. There were 4 students that were there. They moved around and they were very active right along with the administrators and the staff and the and us as the board. I mean, it was just really beautiful to see everyone engaged, everyone vested in this strategic planning, and the way he was able to make everyone comfortable and feel like they were included. And so just adding on to that great layout that Stacy had. So if you can imagine having focus and then also having this kumbaya there, where everybody was getting along and everybody felt included and felt like they had a purpose and a plan. It was a beautiful thing to watch. She did a great job.
That's wonderful. Board reps, for the stick, could you guys give us a written report? So that way we can kind of have it in our board.
Yeah, we can do that after each one, but I'll.
If you could do that, because there was some,
For this one, yeah.
right, yeah, so if you, if the reps could go ahead and just give us a report, they could actually be part of our board packet. So we can kind of read some of this and everything else like that, because again, you know, all of us are really interested in where we're going with the strategic plan, especially in light of this is like one of our major pieces for the board and being able to, kind of feel as though that we're part of it as well, to kind of be in there.
And then just prior to each meeting, do we
I
just?
mean, we can go, but I mean, we have our reps. I know I couldn't either. So, yeah.
Can you get in when, just the Sunday
Yes,
before?
For the upcoming, for whatever meeting is after, because the next one is January 30th.
You know, that would be good. And I'm really critical of things like this because this is what I do. I develop these types of workshops. And so, and I learned, it was refreshing to learn just as far as the structure and the logistics of it. It was well done. I think we got it.
Hey, let's don't say it too loud.
Right.
All right, so thank you. Anything else? Or did any board members have any questions for our board reps for the strategic plan, or any of the administrative team have anything that they'd like to be able to add in relationship to that first session? Okay, all right. Let's move forward to our Village Academy lease, and that would be Mr. Clement, or would that be Dr. Brown? Be Dr. Vito.
Yes.
Oh, it's over. Oh, okay. All right, so we had a meeting in relationship to the lease that we had with the Village Academy, and having a conversation with Ms. Ramos and her team and administration. It seems as though that the program that we were trying to implement wasn't really needed, because we were able to do the program in-house here and on our own facilities, our own grounds. What we were able to do was come up to a consensus in relationship to the lease that we had. So the lease that we had, when it was supposed to go into June, we wanted to be able to stop that lease in December, but we were able to come to this happy medium. We were paying the church out until February.
One more, yeah, we have one.
Yeah, to February. And the reason we wanted to be able to do that, because we know with that partnership that the church actually went through a lot of different things, and that dollar amount was part of their budget, and they did some facility improvements and things of that nature. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to be fair in relationship to breaking that our contract with them and with Pastor Davis, and being able to do that, and wanted to be able to continue to have a good, vibrant relationship with church, because we never know. There may be another time that we may need to be able to collaborate and being able to do that. And plus, we also wanted to be great community partners. We always want to be able to do that. So as a board, we thought that that would be the best way to move forward, and to where it would be a win-win for all of us, that he would be happy in relationship to the agreement, as well as the district, and being able to do that. So-
And he was happy.
and he was happy in relationship to that. I'm quite sure he probably would have loved it going to June, but of course, you know, with the reasoning for us breaking, having to terminate that lease, but at least being cognizant of that and wanting to be able to pay him out and the church out to, kind of have this happy median and make it a win-win was a good thing and was a positive thing. And I think he was happy when he walked away, and I think we were happy when we walked away.
Good. Good to hear.
Questions, board members, you got any questions for me in relationship to the Village Academy? All right, let's go on to our next item, is the discussion of the 23-24 open enrollment seats. Would that be Dr. Brown?
Devin and I,
Would that be?
tag team.
Would that be
That's
Swimming? Would that be Dr. Glass? Would that be Ms. Ramos? Who are we talking about on this one right here?
Start out, then I can
I'm gonna throw it to everybody, hey.
turn it over to Kevin. So we know that January is the season time of the year that we begin. We start our discussion around open enrollment seats here in our school district. Just a little history. Last year, well, 1 year history I'm gonna give to you. Last year, we asked for 0 seats for open enrollment. The year prior to that, I cannot remember the number, however, it's a 35 seats we asked the board to approve, and the board approved the 35 seats. And we want our community to understand, we were in a state of flux that year because there were so many students who were virtual. We just weren't sure if students were going to come back to our school district. So we wanted to make sure we were able to cover for that with the 35 seats. With that, we know families and students continue to move to Brown Deer and come to our school district. So the celebration in all of this is we are a district, we can probably report that we're not a district where decreasing enrollment is our issue. So when you're sitting in meetings, when you SWSA or any of these meetings, you hear many districts who are grappling with or challenged with a decrease in enrollment. And so they have, and the fiscal cliff. And so they have to figure out what they're going to do. That's not our story, so that's a celebration. With that being said, Kevin and I have looked at our open enrollment out numbers, and that continues to be a challenge. We have 236 students open enrolled out right now to the tune of $2 million. A lot of money. And
10% of our budget.
and we're working to employ a strategy to figure out what.
How many?
236.
Students.
I heard you, but I didn't hear you. And I'm like, wait, did she say 236 or 36?
236.
When you said 2 million, that's why I was like, wait.
Yeah, 10% of our budget.
Excuse me, does that mean, sorry, does that mean these students live in Brown Deer, but they don't go to our school district? I'm sorry, is that what that means?
They go to another public
They're
school.
going
Go to another
to.
school.
And their dollars follow them, right?
I got you, okay.
We pay those district.
You pay those district numbers.
Funds follow the students.
So with that being said, Kevin, myself, and I spoke to Elvin Simmons today for your request, Dr. Beadle. Employing a strategy to figure out what marketing could look like to understand from our families. What is it, either they're unaware of what we have to offer in our district, or they're looking for something that we don't offer. Now, what you also have to keep in mind with open enrollment out, that there are some cases where the students have never been a Brown Deer student. So I want us to seek some clarity, and it is not always that they've been here and they've left. There are some instances where they may not have ever started here. This could be an experience where family started out somewhere else. They had, the first kid was successful in the other district. My 2 other kids came behind. Experience that success. So I want to make sure we're all clear in it is not necessarily that they were here and left. Some of them may have never started here in Brown Deer because they had a great experience somewhere else. So that's one part.
They were going somewhere else and moved here. They just stayed where they were.
A
Exactly.
lot of MPS do that. They just stay in the same, especially high school. Especially high school.
We could disaggregate that data, and when could we get that so that we can focus the retention?
Well, that's the part that we're working on. Me, Kevin, and we can get a list of who the families are. If they're in a public school, now if they're in private or somewhere virtual or homeschooling, or we do not get that information. So if they go to if they open enroll out at another public school, we can get that information.
We get it for choice students though. I mean, if a student goes to
We
choice,
don't,
We just get a dollar amount. And
that's it.
well, I mean, we get the dollar amount or whatever, but we know, well, because
For students,
We don't do it.
dollar.
You have to know where they are.
But we know
And
these
that's not
236 exist. What I'm wondering is, what you were speaking about before, is we can determine if out of that 236, which child never went. So we can just set them over there,
Yeah.
and then which went and how long, and look at those. So we have that information, whether this child exists, but he never went. So we just, we can, that's a tracked group. But then I know that even the survey, if we look at that survey that those parents did last year and some of our own data, we could probably utilize that to inform a retention plan. In addition to, you know, things that we already think. But I think you have an attract with those that never went, because, you know, you live here, you pay your taxes here, we're great, you need to be here, but then why? You know, I think you have to look at it separately. Why are people leaving? But we can find that data.
Yeah, we don't necessarily know why they left though.
But I think that's what you were talking about, the plan to determine. I thought that's what you.
That will determine your marketing strategy. Learning why some of these.
Right, so we.
Well, I'm thinking maybe there'll be a couple different marketing strategies dependent upon why the student left and or the student that was never here. And whatever other.
Is a overarching piece around inviting our families back to the school district around here. So that's the first piece that we're thinking about, and not just, I should say, but understanding 4 or 5 questions that can help us pull a data set together to help us understand what is it they might be receiving from another district that they believe is not here. Because for the families who've never been here, maybe we're doing it and they just don't know.
Don't realize it.
I think that's
Never
a
been invited, never got a phone call to say, hey, did you think about the school? Did you come over and take a look?
track.
Correct, so we're reshifting Ellen's, some of her work, to be the person who will, make these personal phone calls to our families, and if we're unable to reach our families, then we'll also have a link to allow them the opportunity to respond to the questions, not anything long and drawn out. And then look at that data and determine what is it that we have, or either they don't know we have it, or it's something they're looking for that we're not offering. So we have to look at that piece.
Opportunities to tour the school.
We talked about the setting aside dates where they can come tour the schools while we're in session. You can see what's happening in the classroom. So we have I wasn't trying to get into the weeds of all of that, but we're working on what that could look like. I literally just had the meeting with Ellen today.
Right. Are we still got, Ellen is still full-time, correct?
She was never.
I mean, I'm just saying, for all of this though, I mean, we may need to, I mean, because she already retired. She's already retired. I was wondering, in relationship to the numbers, you take 236 and,
We have to pull back on some other stuff.
Yeah.
That's all. I mean, that's how we have to balance it out and work it. So again, I'm just trying to get mired in the weeds of it, but that's the piece that I wanted to share, like we're thinking about. I know you had been asking for that, Dr. Beadle. I didn't have a strategy. I had to think it through in terms of what this would look like. So that's one piece. We know that at the middle, like start at the elementary, trickle off middle school, and then trickle off more high school. So hopefully we'll learn from the families, what is it at those multiple levels that they're looking for or believe that we don't have. And you've got to look at it both ways to see what we can do to bring our families back to ground here.
And how does this impact what you all are thinking about the open enrollment seats?
Great question. So right now we are a 0 at the elementary school. We're requesting 0 seats. We'll have a conversation with Mr. Young at the middle school. We believe we can bring some seats into the middle school. There's a further conversation we're going to have with that. But if you remember, for the past couple years, we received a significant number of students at the high school. So
it was for the Take Ed program.
that was before COVID.
Right.
So we had 10 students. We had
the 10 students, we had 10 in Take Ed, 10 in something else, and
10 in project.
10, yeah, so it was like 30 slots that we had open for open enrollment for high school, that for students only gonna come in as freshmen
Correct.
and went through the program and stuff, and I thought there was something something else that needed to happen with that.
It doesn't, open enrollment doesn't work really on a program basis, so while that was a plan of the previous administration, it never really materialized itself because you can't dictate which classes those particular students are taking. So while it was an attempt to boost some of those programs that, had maybe lower classroom enrollment, it never really materialized that way. So what we are experiencing, if I can jump in real quick, from a enrollment standpoint, we are looking at next year. Now, I haven't done the full analysis of year to year exactly what our enrollment projection will be. But even if you just roll forward right now with what we have, our 12th grade class in our building is going to be one of the larger classes we've had in a while. And that's because for several years we were putting, we opened up those seats at that level. So we're looking at about 154 kids right now in 12th grade, which we've been averaging about 125, I would say, for most of the time I was on the board, certainly. So we're working through just to figure out, if there are some openings somewhere, because while the open enrollment out piece is part of it, it would be nice to minimize that differential that we have. The reality is also that, so we did the 35 seats a couple of years ago. So at that point, we had 72 open enrollment students in. Last year, we didn't offer any seats, and with just the graduating seniors, we should have been at 65, but we ended up at 54. So we had a number of students who didn't return for whatever reason or left with whatever. So currently we're at 54. So we had a pretty significant drop from where we were. And right now with the graduating senior class in open enrollment, which is another 13 students, we're looking at going down to 41 at the most, if we don't offer any additional seats, which is pretty low. So when you multiply the $8,300 or, and again, that number will be set by this budget. So we don't know exactly what that looks like. You're looking at the $400,000 range for open enrollment in. We were at 666 2 years ago. As we were finishing up that first budget, that's the number we're at. So that goes down, and then the open enrollment out costs continue to climb. And so there is going to be a revenue hit at some point. So we'll have to kind of look at that and see. Again, we want to be careful about what we're going to recommend. So we're still working through some of the details, but it does feel like middle school, because we've added teachers at the middle school. So we have 6 sections and our class sizes are pretty good, that we could potentially add some seats there. So that's the conversation we're having internally right now. So we may be recommending some seats at that level in a couple of weeks when we finalize it.
Just the middle school, or are we talking about middle school and high school?
Primarily middle school. I mean, we'll look at the high school, but right now the freshman, again, I think we're having that debate about whether freshman year is the best year to do that too, but that's the lowest class right now because they're at about 125 students again. So that's part of the conversation as to whether or not that makes it. It's a little hard to predict because again, one of the unique things about this district is that we really don't have any private schools. So most, school districts will see an influx in 9th grade from K-8 parochial schools in the district, but since we don't have any of those, kids aren't necessarily living here, going to parochial school, and then going to Brown Deer High School. So we kind of lose out a little bit in that, and they end up, wherever else they're going. So we're just looking at it. But I guess the point of tonight is to at least set the stage that we are considering some seats for some grades. The elementary school, we believe, even though there's probably technically some openings, we feel like that's already a full building. We're not looking at doing that. But we really do think middle school primarily would be a spot where we might have to help recruit some revenue.
Ms. Smith?
Okay, so it just dawned on me. So we're looking at you balancing our out with open enrollment seats.
We're trying, I'm trying to, because if the two continue to spread, we're going to continue, then we're going to have less money for us. It's going to be less money coming in and more money going out. So from an open enrollment out, this is a strategy. I mean, this is a separate thing. If those kids decide, if the kids that are open enrolling out, we get the revenue for that. We get $12,000 for them, but we send $8,000 out. So if I can keep that $8,000 in, that's, if I can reduce that expense, that's helpful. It's more money that we have as well. But there are also additional seats in our class. So we don't want to, what I don't want to do is suggest too many open enrollment in seats. And then also while we're trying to do a strategy, we're trying to bring back a bunch of kids and then we like double the problem.
Right, no.
We want to do it slowly and methodically.
Right, and so we're gonna do a push. I would, just in my head, I would prefer that the plan of retaining our people and then attracting our own rather than, I know we look at them as dollar.
Yeah.
Because when we have open enrollment seats, do we do ours as a lot, like a lottery, like what? Right, so, right, that's how it's done. So the the student's record or nothing impacts. So, because I know, like, when kids leave are asked to leave our district, that when they're going to other districts, they're going in, are they taking open seats? Would our seats just be hanging out there open for other students that have been asked to leave their district? Are those available to them? Or are you able to say no, but are they able to do that? I'm not clear on how.
When you set the numbers, I mean, almost every district surrounding Milwaukee wants, I mean, if you're a declining enrollment district, which most districts are, you want the open enrollment. So you open up as much as you possibly feel like you can. So there's a lot of districts that are net positive. You know, there's many more coming in than are going out. We are net negative. We have a lot more going out than we have coming in because we've been methodical about how much space we have and how many additional students we want to bring in. So.
Well, that's not really why we have more.
No, but I'm saying, but we're the open enrollment in part, I mean, if we wanted to, we could add several hundred kids like that. I mean, and we could.
They'd be there too.
My question is, are those having an open seat means that you have, during the year out of the open enrollment period, is that seat open for people that need it for reasons where they've been asked to leave the district?
Theoretically, yes. Unless they've been expelled, then they're not necessarily eligible to be public, if they're expelled from public, but no. Yeah, we don't have any additional information. We decide here's how many seats we have in a particular grade level.
And just look at the draw.
The only thing that could happen, and Ms. Ramos will correct me if I'm wrong, but if they were to be identified as special education and we weren't able to supply a service, then that might be a situation where we would turn that down. But otherwise, even some of the kids that we do, even though we don't open up special education seats specifically, some kids do come with us either immediately or thereafter with an IEP that will service because we have those, we have a service available. So the challenge is that we have to make this decision now versus I don't know what'll happen over the next several months if we reach out to open enrollment families and maybe we get some back. We won't know, but we have to decide tonight or not at the end of the month, how many open enrollment seats we want to do.
And I know Dr. Beal asked about that in 236 some months ago. So I think I'm not super comfortable not knowing that we haven't, what our plan is or how aggressive our plan will be. It's kind of still vague. We defined it somewhere and, in the 2 months, coming back.
Wouldn't.
But-
hang our hat.
Love to grow your own type of thing, but if we need to balance.
Yeah. I mean,
So we might not have a really good handle on the open enrollment out until we might not, we can look at the data as soon as we get it, but we probably wouldn't be able to include that in anything that could be strategic, methodical, or impactful until the.
Well, see, but those are actually two different things though, because if they're already residents, then it doesn't make a difference about open enrollment in or open enrollment out, because we automatically are going to be able to take them. I think our conversation is more about the ones that we do straight open enrollment, and then those students coming in and what those numbers would be, what those numbers look like. Like, so before we were doing like the 30 out of 35. I think those are two different conversations. You've got the conversation on how many students we may do an open enrollment seats for, be able to bring in for the middle school or for the high school. And then the other one is bringing back students that are already in the district or whatever, because they're not considered open enrollment. They are already residents and stuff. So what we're going to be trying to do is bring them back into the fold. So again, two different conversations.
When you look at it fiscally, it's kind of balanced.
well, we'd like to, if the more revenue we get and the less the expenses are, then that's more money we can do other things.
Right.
So that will help. Now, you're right, this open enrollment out discussion is really a long-term
Right, so
thing.
I wanna
It's a
make sure we
strategy
know
that.
We're gonna see the impact of that
Right.
this year.
So but again, but that's the reason why I'm not gonna say we don't have to worry about it, but I know by the end of the month, we're gonna, as a board, we're gonna have to vote to say how many open enrollment seats we're getting ready to do. Dr. Brown and her team can do the other thing in relationship to trying to reclamation and bring students back in. Or trying to figure that other part out. So, I guess our only issue is going to be then is if we do say 30 or 40 open seats and then we're able to bring back half of.
I would say we brought back, 10% would be
Right.
good.
Well, again, I'm saying, I'm trying to Scott.
That's why I'm suggesting being cautious, and I wouldn't suggest putting out 100 seats.
Well, no, I wouldn't do that anyway and stuff, but that.
See what happens on the other.
That 30 may be a really good number, especially in light of the numbers that we're talking about, leaving for the high school right now, and then what those numbers are gonna look like for our incoming freshmen. So in 3 years or 4 years, when they get ready to graduate, you know, our numbers are lower and then they continue to stay that way. So I think what we're trying to do is trying to figure out if we get them in middle school, we're able to retain them, then we know that we're going to continue to have those full groups going through high school. Fingers crossed and being able to do that. And if we can do the reclamation piece in relationship to trying to bring some of those other students back. Now, the 238 is gonna be different because some of those students may be high school seniors now. So the following year, it's a little bit different. But if we were able to, let's say, even if we were able to bring 20% of them back, that's 40 to 50 students, you know, which is, you know,
Right, but I don't think you'll see those numbers until,
but you won't see them until the following year.
the other piece that I would like for us to be mindful of is whatever our parents' belief is or are that they're not receiving here, we gotta have a strategy to be able to have that here when they get.
If we can,
So,
if we
well,
can.
that's
if we
right.
can, there's some things that there may be some things that there's some things that another district may be having or whatever have you that we may not have, but you know what? There may be some things we've got going on that the other district doesn't. Like I think about that tech ed program. I mean, that's a masterpiece, right? And so you've got other school districts bringing their kids to our district to be able to do that. Are we still doing that in the morning where some of them kids are coming in the morning or after school or whatever have you to be able to do tech
You
ed?
don't have to 0-hour district.
Yeah.
The value of a study might not be the bringing back the 236, but determining why they left, the retention piece.
I mean, it's.
Bring, get those, just the study of it will tell us, will be valuable information for retaining the ones who have not left. So I wasn't pinning it on, oh, we'll get those 236 back, it's just we'll get that information so that we can elevate or adjust so that we are retaining our.
But I would like to just not lose sight of that piece right there, like long-term planning. It's important for us to think about, how we are marketing ourselves,
Right.
what are our strengths, how we sell it to the community, how do we keep kids from even
Thinking about going someplace else.
going someplace else, which is not gonna happen this year, next year. But if we put our due diligence into a nice plan
Mhm.
to kind of attack this student a migration out.
Miss Ashley, that was the reason why he had even brought it up initially and stuff to Dr. Brown, because I was thinking to myself, I was like, wait a minute, hold on, well, of course, you and I, we come from a different call or whatever, so the enrollment numbers are kind of what generates the budget period point blank. So, and so my thing was like, well, what are our numbers looking like out? And then all of a sudden, when it came up with that number, I was like, that's a lot of kids and a lot of revenue that's leaving out of the district rather than staying in the district. And we know that there's things that we want to do that we couldn't do because we don't have the revenue to be able to do it. So.
I will let you know that the first step of when I was doing this analysis is I did do a spreadsheet right before break about where kids were going and where they've been going over the last 5 years. I just sent that to you all. So it's in your email that you can review. It doesn't look at who was here 2 or 3 years ago, but it's just looking at raw numbers of here was what open enrollment looked like for the last 5 years and which school districts they were attending. So we are in the process of looking back and saying like, who was here, who's new to open enrollment this year that was here last year versus people who have, as Dr. Brown mentioned, have never been.
Oh, so you just sent it just now?
I just sent it now.
I'm sitting there looking, I was like, I'd have read that email.
Well, I didn't,
Okay.
we're the focus of this discussion or the vote you will do will be on open enrollment in. So we've kind of gone off on a tangent here a little bit, but so I was.
Good tangent though.
Yeah, it's part of the conversation. So you can review that data if you have any questions. You can take a look, but it shows you, like I said, the last 5 years, the cost, where kids are going, and by grade level where they were. So.
So is remedying this situation or at least working towards it, is that included in the strategic plan?
When we know more about where we are in the strategic plan, the thought is to bring that into the fold. It's my first experience with TED too, so just figuring out where that comes in as he facilitates our discussion. So that's the thought process.
But he's aware that that's.
So I have not.
Yeah, so yeah, just looking at this, so we're losing 108 to MPS. When I look at the big numbers, 108 to MPS. It was at 15 to Cedarburg. Was looking at bigger numbers, 15 to Wauwatosa.
McFarland is a little bit high.
That's a virtual one, so that's.
That's virtual.
So some of those, there are people who have been in virtual options for, and this was even before the pandemic, and those will be probably harder to return, but
Yeah.
And anyone that's in any of these school districts that are a significant distance, it's probably also it's probably also a virtual experience.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, so out of the 236, 108 of them are going to MPS. And so in my mind, I'm like, I know we need to go.
You have specialized high schools, you have.
No, I was saying is like, that'd be like one of the first ones, be like these MPS, like, let's go to them. All right, thank you, Kevin, for that info.
No problem.
And Dr. Brown, thank you so much. All right.
We'll have a more formal memo for you with numbers and we'll complete the analysis and then you'll see that in 2 weeks.